Do a sort of a lightning version of his simple question. If you have the first overall pick, and I'll start with you, Shefty. Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson?
Jahmyr Gibbs, only because I trust the offense a little bit more right now with what's going on at the quarterback position. I think Bijan Robinson is fantastic. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is fantastic. I just like the Lions offense a little bit more right now with the certainty at quarterback compared to the uncertainty in Atlanta.
Mike, here's how I tie break it. I have to bring some stats in, right? It wouldn't be a segment if I wasn't delivering some stats here. Top 10 running back in yards per carry, routes, targets, receptions, touchdowns, and fantasy points each of his first 3 seasons in the NFL for Jahmyr Gibbs. 38 touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. That's 4 more than any other player. A top 3 fantasy running back each of the past 2 years, despite never finishing better than 7th in touches. Oh, and now Dan Campbell says he's going to be our bell cow now. After all that, give me Jahmyr Gibbs for sure. I mean, how much higher can he possibly go?
It's really one of those questions you shouldn't waste too much energy on. I lean towards Bijan Robinson. I think he's a little bit less vulnerable to some of those dud games than Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, it's a good problem to have between 1 and 2. It's time for us to be cautiously optimistic about some players. We're talking guys that maybe have some red flags. And Liz, we are blowing right by the red flags and we're drafting them anyways. The great Liz Loza, you wrote this piece on ESPN.com. And let's start at quarterback. Who are you clicking draft on despite some red flags there?
Well, we have to be honest that Jayden Daniels' sophomore effort was a disaster. He had some really, really tough injury luck. He was limited to just 4 fully healthy games. And the injuries did not stop at the quarterback position because obviously Terry McLaurin, Austin Eckler, and Zach Ertz all missed significant time. But we also have to remember that the year before, Daniels was fantasy's QB5. And Field, if you know anything about Jayden Daniels, the number 5 is very important to him.
I'm not, Liz, explain that one to me. I'm not familiar.
We'll get into it a little, maybe another time. But that is why I'm expecting a bounce back. Also, the offense has been retooled. Terry McLaurin is healthy. Yep. They've added Chigo Okonkwo. Yep. They've added Rashad White. And they've added, bearing the lead a little bit here, Stephon Diggs. Yeah. Also, there's been a coordinator change, right? David Blau has been promoted from the QB's coach to the offensive coordinator, and I think that Blau can put Daniels in a position to A, stay healthy, and B, produce. He's my QB2.
Okay, there you have it there from Liz Loza. We have heard from both Mike Clay and Tyler Fulgham on Devon Achane. So I'm going to take the lead here on Devon Achane, a player where the bear case would be, as Tyler just alluded to, that, hey, 2 is gone, which means fewer dump-offs from Malik Willis. This team's going to be very bad. I understand those cases. No doubt about that. The bull case on just Devon Achane is this is one of the most talented running backs in the entire NFL. It wasn't a great offense last year, and he's still absolutely mashed. He's going to get his as a receiver, even if it's a slight downtick in volume. And the part that I'm most intrigued by is this Dolphins offensive line might be sneaky ready to create some running lanes. They have a player that they drafted 11th overall in Caden Proctor, 12th overall, and they also drafted Will Kazmarek, 3rd-round blocking tight end out of Ohio State. We don't talk much about blocking tight ends in fantasy football, but he was like an extra offensive lineman for Ohio State. I do believe Miami is going to be able to run the football very effectively. I'm more in on Devon Achane.
I don't mind this. Also, Achane faced 23% of his carries last year were against loaded boxes, and he still averaged 6.0 yards per touch.
He is efficiency defined. Let's go to wide receiver, though, Liz, and what do you got there?
Well, Garrett Wilson has spent his entire career turning lemons under center into lemonade quality fantasy production. Yeah. Before he was hurt in week 6 of last year, he was the wide receiver 10 in fantasy points per game. He was on track to clear 1,100 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns. Now, do I think that Geno Smith is a world beater? I do not. Do I think he adds enough stability under center for Wilson to effectively produce as the team's lone alpha? I absolutely do. I'm not expecting top 5 production, but low-end wide receiver 1 production is well within the reason.
All right, so a Jet does indeed make the list. Well, let's go through one more name on a player, a red flag player that you're so comfortable drafting.
This was some big news today because
what do you got?
George Kittle was activated off of the PUP list. Are we surprised?
I am not, because I think he might not be a human.
No,
he's a Wolverine.
He doesn't do anything halfway.
That's true. Yeah.
Which, as evidenced by the fact that despite missing 12 regular season games, he leads the position in touchdowns over the last 5 seasons with 38 touchdown grabs. He also, outside of his rookie season, has never posted a campaign in which he's averaged fewer than 12.7 fantasy points per game. Now, I'm not sold that he's going to be a full go in week 1 in Australia, but given his 10th round ADP, I am happy to gamble on him dominating from weeks 2 through 18.
Absolutely. Graz, which one would you prefer out of those 2?
I would take Lawrence. First of all, I believe there's more. I believe there's more growth potential there over what we've seen. I think the way he came along in the Liam Cohen offense in the second half of last year is repeatable. He did not recently lose his starting center to a long-term injury, as Justin Herbert did. Justin Herbert learning a new offense. All the reports on that are great, but he is learning a new offense. Sure. And Trevor Lawrence is in the second year in his. They've got him receivers that can catch now, which a year ago they apparently didn't. And I think all signs are pointing up for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I know Fields going to disagree, but I have so many points against Herbert here. So you said the positives on Lawrence. My concerns with Herbert are the fact that, look, last year Lawrence was QB4. Justin Herbert has finished one season better than QB8 in his career. He's been outside the top 10 4 years in a row. And if you look at the numbers of Mike McDaniel offenses, and look, I get it. Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than some of the guys he's had. But his quarterback rooms have finished very poorly in terms of fantasy points. 15th, 12th, 20th, and 29th in fantasy points. So I don't think Mike McDaniel joining him automatically turns into Herbert jumping from outside the top 10 4 years in a row to ahead of where Trevor Lawrence was last season. I'd be surprised.
First of all, congrats to both of you on being wrong. You're still allowed to stick around for the rest of the show, but congrats on being wrong there. Mike, you listed the quarterback points by season for a Mike McDaniel offense. And at one point you mentioned 15th and 12th. And the point is that he had a quarterback room that was constructed of perhaps as not fantasy friendly of quarterbacks as you could find, and still got them to average or even above average. Justin Herbert is a very fantasy-friendly quarterback. No quarterback had more games last year with 225 or more passing yards and 30 or more rushing yards. The tools are there. He was held back by his offense. Justin Herbert will be a better fantasy quarterback than Trevor Lawrence in 2026. You heard it here first. Is the big-name running back that you're saying, I'm out on?
I know I'm about to be roasted by you guys on this one, but I'm going to start with Christian McCaffrey. There is no disputing, Adam, that he is the engine of Kyle Shanahan's offense. I just don't think that motor is going to have as much power in 2026.
All right.
He is coming off of a career worst 3.9 yards per carry. Okay. He's entering, he had 413 touches last season, and now he's entering his age 30 season, and he has a bottom 10 strength of schedule. It's not that I don't think he's going to put up numbers. I just don't think he's going to be a top 3 producer at the position, and that is how he's being drafted.
I guess my retort to that would be, there's a lot of running backs that have been paid. He would like to be paid yet again. He is obviously determined to prove he's still a top back after the 3.9 yards. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him bounce back, but I will say this, I understand all of your points.
Thank you.
I think that the poor rushing efficiency last year actually helps bolster the case for Christian McCaffrey.
Because of the receiving work?
Because last year when he averaged 3.9, you said 3.7?
Yes, 3.9.
3.9 yards per carry, he was still the best player in fantasy football by a ton. Let's move to wide receivers, Liz. And who's a wide receiver that's on your do not draft list right now?
I want to talk about Davante Adams. Last season, he averaged nearly 16 fantasy points per game. He obviously led the league in receiving touchdowns, and that was incredible. But going into this season, he's entering his age 33 season. He is attached to a 38-year-old quarterback who has a history of back injuries, and all of that production that came last season, 50% of it came via end zone looks. That's not sustainable, especially given his age and the age of his quarterback.
I mean, they'd love to run the ball, and he had caught so many touchdowns. We talk about regression all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like a little touchdown regression. And not that he's not a great player, he is.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
But
he's also
step
going
back in the
fifth
touchdowns.
round, so maybe I would prefer someone like Ladd McConkey there, a breakout player.
I got to be honest with you, and this is not necessarily a fantasy comment, but man, is it humbling when we start talking about these guys. They're entering their age 33 season. Makes the rest of us feel very ancient, I can tell you that much. I'm more optimistic on Davante Adams, but I hear you on the regression concerns. Okay. A quarterback, Liz, there are a lot of good options, but who is a player that you're saying somebody else can take that guy?
Well, you make a good point about there being a lot of good options, because that kind of comes into the calculus, because there's no disputing that Joe Burrow is an elite passer. He's been a top 10 producer at the position in 3 of his last 5 seasons, but he's had some tough injury luck, and we could say that some of that was in large part due to his offensive line. Now, there is some optimism in Cincinnati surrounding the trenches, but hope is not enough for me to gamble on Burrow in the 6th round when there are other options, and when he provides so little rushing upside. Last season, just 3% of his fantasy production came via his legs. I don't know. That's the position. That's too much of a gamble for me to force the pick that early.
The one thing I noticed as you were putting up the average draft positions of all the quarterbacks is you can get to the 23rd ranked quarterback and find good value in fantasy football. There are a lot of good quarterbacks late in drafts.
As we are reaching for some players that we don't care about the ADP, we're getting them where we need them. Rank, who you got?
I'm going to go with Jadon Blue. Yeah, the backup running back position for the Dallas Cowboys. The most hotly contested position battle in Dallas since Craig Morton and Roger Staubach. Google it, kids. But I really like what we saw out of him this weekend. I wrote about it on ESPN.com. I really think he's going to take that number 2 job, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to draft him everywhere.
I'm looking at Tucker Kraft. Now, I've been trolling Rank, and I know he likes him too, which is why I stole him when we decided who was taking him. But ultimately, I love the tight end. I'm going to take him probably in the 3rd round. I know it sounds crazy, but I would love to get him there. If you look at the opportunity that he has to recreate some of the magic, meaning how he has deep passing attempts that are targeted towards him, how he has all of the different ways, 15.1 yards per reception, that is a great number. I love all of it.
Yeah, and I love, talking about Rank and trolling the Green Bay Packers, it's their wide receiver core where so much mystery had kind of clouded things for the past few years. But no, now 2 big targets are gone, leaving Christian Watson there. I think he's the Packers receiver that you want in this circumstance where immediately after coming back from the torn ACL, he instantly got targets in the end zone. I think those targets go up, and we are targeting you guys, reaching towards the end of this fantasy football marathon. It's practically over at this point.
Picks 3 to 5, Mike, are often receivers based off what we are seeing so far on ESPN. Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jamar Chase. Is there one of those 3 that you're targeting above the others?
You know what? It was a really close call between Chase and Nacua for most of the offseason. I leaned toward Nacua, but with just a chance there could be a suspension there. Even if it doesn't happen, there's a chance. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. I'll settle for Jamar Chase, a top 5 scorer 4 of his 5 seasons in the NFL. Last year actually became the 3rd player in NFL history with at least 125 catches in multiple seasons. Yeah. The guy's just tremendous. He's part of a pass-heavy, high-scoring Bengals offense. So I'm just not going to risk it right now with Nacua, but it is still a very close call.
Yeah.